Hi, this is Lee from the Law School Toolbox and the Bar Exam Toolbox. Happy New Year. It's 2025.
And it's still very chaotic here in California.
Oh my goodness. I mean, but with chaos comes also information. So we thought we should come back together here in the new year and talk about some new information. But first, I think we need to take a minute and talk about what's happening in Los Angeles. We are not located in Los Angeles, but we have been very close to intense fire situations being in Northern California. So our hearts really go out to everyone in LA. We know people who've been touched by the fires, and we know that some of our bar students and bar cityers are also being touched by the fires. So everyone is in our hearts, but we also wanted to talk practically about what to do if you're in that situation. So the California bar being what it is, they don't have an answer yet for you if you're in a tough spot because of the fires, but they do have an email.
Somebody is on it. Somebody's paying attention.
On it. Yes. So if you have been affected by the fires, and if that throws into question whether or not you should be sitting for the February exam, you should write to this email. It's wildfire.emergencies. It's a plural emergencies at calbar.ca.gov. We hope someone is responding in a timely manner to those emails. We do know people who've reached out and received responses from those emails, so we believe somebody's checking it, but you should ask for what you need. These are unprecedented situations, and we hope that you can get the support that you need, and the bar does what's right.
Absolutely. We are all crossing our fingers for that, but definitely reach out. It does seem like somebody is aware that this could be a problem and might be paying attention, hopefully.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. And stay safe. The fires are not over, so stay safe. Even though it seems like from some news coverage they might be over, but they are definitely not over. So please, everybody, be very aware and stay safe.
Yeah, I think the Santa Anas are blowing again today,
yes,
unfortunately.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I lived in Pasadena for a while, so and I know you lived in LA for college or near LA. So yeah, anytime you hear the Santa Anas, you're like, oh, that is not a good situation.
No. So I was born down there too. I'm like LA born and bred, not really bred, just a little bit when I was like a toddler. Anyway, but yes, I did go back for LA. So we're keeping everybody in our thoughts. Everybody needs to stay safe. The bar exam is just a test. This is like serious life stuff. So please, make that your first priority. Okay, but if you are still planning to take the February exam, boy, do we have some FAQs for you. They're updating them. They're getting very long. I read them yesterday again. Every time I read them, it feels like the first time.
Well, because I feel like a couple of pages get added every time at least. So if you are taking the exam, I really do think you probably should be looking at this probably, I would say, weekly. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that that's a good idea. I know they're supposed to start sending out regular emails, I believe almost every Friday here pretty soon. But I would keep going back to the FAQs. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, they do note the order and the date in which they're updating and adding things. So you don't have to reread the whole packet like I did, just to refresh my recollection. It's new year, new PDF, I don't know. But you should take some time and at least make sure you are noting what is being updated. So we're going to talk about some of the stuff that we've seen that is new that folks may not have thought about because we are counting down to the test. We are now just weeks away. We're in 2025. So it's coming for you. So you need to be prepared. Okay, so the first thing I wanted us to talk about was just kind of what do you need to consider if you're testing remotely? Because for most students, this is a very new thing that they're going to be doing. I think, they've been very clear that you have to have a laptop or desktop with a functioning microphone and web camera because you have to have somebody watching you the whole time. So you must make sure that you can't use a super old laptop that doesn't have this sort of equipment on it. You also must have Chrome Firefox, which not everybody uses.
Are those two different browsers? Chrome
I don't know.
Firefox?
It said Chrome Does Chrome own Firefox?
Chrome
or
so.
Firefox? I don't know. This is sad.
I'm pretty sure those are two different. Chrome is owned by Google. Firefox is its own thing. So
okay. Chrome or Firefox? Read that FAQ again. I'll double check, but it says Chrome Firefox FAQ. I swear.
That's not a thing.
Oh, man. Okay, well, double check that, but you definitely want to make sure that you are running the right browser. You can't be running Safari. I think that's what's clear. But Safari is not on that list. You must have stable internet, which I think is important. So you shouldn't be like using your phone as a hub or anything like that. You want to have stable Wi-Fi. You cannot use external monitors, which I know would like break your heart because you love your external monitor like a lot.
Well, I mean, I think it does seem like they're letting you have an external mouse and keyboard
Yes.
maybe. So
That-
you know,
yes.
if you have that, like I could probably make do without the
Yeah.
external monitors. But,
Yeah.
you know, of course, that would be preferable. But
Yeah.
hey,
I know. And as I mentioned, your webcam's going to be recording you during the entire exam, and you can bring this whiteboard and markers, and the markers can be colors, and you do get one thing to wipe it with. And I don't know, I'm very excited about this whiteboard scenario. It just feels very different to me. I feel like you're going to end up with like the full black hand, you know, like my high school teacher when he would write on the overhead projector, because that's how old we are. And it would
Right.
like slide, you know, and he'd slide his hand on the overhead projector. Like, I feel like it's going to be like that. But I think that you need to practice with a whiteboard because it's very different than paper.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're probably going to write a lot less. I mean, they also make different types of markers with like more fine tip or less
Oh,
fine
yeah.
tip. So that might be
Mhm.
worth looking into. I do find it interesting they let you bring something to wipe it with, including a cloth.
Yes.
I'm assuming you're going to have to show the cloth on both
Probably.
sides to the proctor. But I found that interesting.
Yeah, you know, the other thing is, I think those things smell. I'm like one of those
Mm.
people who's very sensitive to those kinds of smells. And I think using those markers for hours would really start to get to me. So I guess you have to practice acclimating yourself to the marker smell. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And they may make some that are lower smell, I think, that you can probably look into.
Yeah,
I'm making
so-
that up, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that.
I
at
don't
some
know. I
point in my
feel like
life.
you're going to have to spend some time on Amazon looking for your favorite markers. But you want to buy the whiteboard, look at the dimensions. It's basically the size of a sheet of paper. And I would, you know, order one and practice with it because it's very different than having scratch paper. So
Yeah.
I think you definitely want to practice with it. And again, make sure you're practicing with the question on your computer screen and, you know, the whiteboard, because you're not going to be able to mark up the question anymore. It's all going to be
Yeah.
on the computer. Things that you have to make sure that don't happen when you're taking it remotely is you can't have any prohibited items in the exam room. So we don't have that list yet. That's what I loved about the FAQs. They're like, there are lots of prohibited items. We will send you that list.
We'll tell you what they are later.
I know.
No, I mean, a friend of mine's kid took the LSAT remotely, and she said they had to clean everything out of her office, like everything
Yes.
on the walls, papers, everything before he could sit for the test.
That sounds very intense. So keep an eye out, because when they do release that, you're going to need to have a plan for it. You cannot continue to work on the exam after time is called. I mean, they're watching you, folks. So make sure that when you're practicing under time conditions, that you are like
You're like-
cutting yourself off. Like, I'm done. I'm not working afterwards. You having any sort of unauthorized electronic device outside of the check-in process. And, you know, we got feedback from folks who took the experiment that this felt kind of weird because you have to use your phone as part of the check-in process, but then you're not supposed to have your phone. So that created kind of a lot of like confusion for folks. So just realize that like you're going to need some electronics, but don't have extra stuff in the room, like an iPad or anything that they could see. They're going to get really upset about that. And they're going to issue violations, which are no good. You also cannot exit this exam room outside of the scheduled break. So you cannot go to the bathroom in your exam time.
Right. Basically, you'll have an hour generally-ish, and then you'll have a short break. So, but otherwise, you're stuck there. So if there's, you know, you stab yourself with one of these markers and you're bleeding, and that's too bad. Hopefully you don't bleed to death.
I don't think you can have Band-Aids. I don't know if they're on the list.
I was going to say, maybe you can use the, you know, the cloth
whiteboard wipe
to like staunch the bleeding. But yeah, try not to stab yourself. Because you got to stay in view of the webcam. You know, you can't be getting up, moving around. It's going to be pretty strict, I think.
I think it will be pretty strict. So one of the reasons you want to keep that in mind is you're going to have to practice under these conditions. You know, I think a lot of us take a lot of comfort in being able to stand up and stretch our legs and get a drink of water or make a tea or whatever. And you can't do that under these new conditions. And when I took the bar, I mean, I got up to go to the bathroom at some point during the session. So, you know, you can't do that anymore. So you need to plan your potty breaks, just like when I go on a road trip with my kids.
Yeah, you got to really calibrate your caffeine intake and things like that.
Yes,
So that you're not,
intake.
you know, desperately. And if you are, you know, if this does sound like something could be an issue, you know, there's maybe something you need accommodations around if you have a medical reason for needing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So other things to think about is you can't have any pets in the room, which if you're taking it at home, I could see that being a situation. If a dog knows that you're in a room and you've got the door shut, you don't want the dog melting down.
Dog's like,
yeah, the dog's like, I want to get into the room and I can like hear you talking. But if the dog is in the room, that's a bad thing. So don't let your pets in the room. Whew, that's like a lot to keep track of. I feel like it's going to take some planning and some getting used to for a lot of folks.
Yeah, and it might be a day to send your dog to doggy daycare or whatever, so that you're not hearing him like whine outside the door and worrying about it. You don't want these distractions if you can avoid them.
Yeah. Now, if you're testing in person at one of these measure learning testing centers, they're providing you with a computer. So you're not using your laptop. They're providing with you a whiteboard. You get a whiteboard, but you can only use their black markers. And who knows the tip size? They didn't say that in the FAQs. I would want my own tiny tipped whiteboard marker myself.
Yeah, no, I think you're getting the like standard issue marker if you go to the test center.
I think
you don't get a
true.
choice.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of came out of this review of the FAQs is that there's this mock exam scheduling, which is required for everyone who's taking the exam remotely. And I think everybody who's taking the exam wants to do some sort of mock exam. And the scheduling emails are going out this week. So keep an eye out because you want to schedule your exam and make sure that you're comfortable with the software and it runs on your laptop. And the mock sessions are going to be held next week. And if you're listening to this and you don't know what next week is, it's January 17th through the 24th.
That's not even really next week because we're already recording this on the 14th.
Okay. Well, I'm still on like the 10th in my head.
Yeah, we're halfway through January right now.
That is really not making me feel better at all.
So all this stuff is coming up soon. And I think after you take the mock exam, I would really urge people not to run updates of their operating system and things like that. Because if you know it was working, you don't want to change anything.
No, that's true. Don't get a new computer or like don't do it. Just make sure everything is very like as is.
Yeah, stable. Keep it stable.
Oh, you're right. It is the 14th. Oh my gosh. That is really okay. Whew. All right. The other thing that I thought was important to look at was the idea of what the actual exam looks like. So in the past, when you sat for the California bar, you get 3 hours or 3.5 hours where you get the packet and you're just like, go.
Right.
That's basically it. Those are the directions. You can write them in any order you want. You can spend 15 minutes on one question and, 90 minutes on another question. That math doesn't work out, but you know what I mean?
You could choose how to spend your 3 hours.
Choose how to spend your 3 hours. And that is not the case anymore. You get 1 hour for each question and 90 minutes for the performance test. And that is it. You are cut off after each question. You have to take them in order. So there's no reordering of the questions. There's no even looking ahead and knowing what the future questions are. You are just taking it as it comes. And so you take this one question, 60 minutes, and then you get a break, and then you get the next question. So if you are taking practice exams, you now need to do it like this.
Right.
You need to get comfortable with this idea that you only have 60 minutes. You cannot even go over by 1 second because they're going to cut you off. So you need to be very, very tight with time. And this is going to be a big shift for those repeat takers that are used to taking it under different conditions.
Right. And also, I think it's going to be interesting for people to continually have that element of surprise throughout the day. Previously it was like, okay, you get your packet in the morning, you flip through, you're like, okay, it's torts, community property and remedies or whatever. And you're like, oh, okay. Here you're going to get that. What is it? What is it? Repeatedly. So you need to be ready for that psychologically.
Yeah. So I would probably, we do this for our students, come up with these surprise packets where you have like a
100%.
friend or somebody pull just some random questions for you and stick them in a pile and just have to take them, do one for 60 minutes, take a 5-minute break, open the next one to start to see what that feels like. You don't want the first dry run of that experience to be on the exam.
No, definitely not. Yeah, you could have somebody like put a bunch of them in a folder for you and you just go in and you pick number 1 and you give yourself a timer for 60 minutes and boom, you start. And then you take a 5-minute break and then you do it all over again.
Yeah. And go potty.
Right.
Make sure you go potty during the break.
So run out, get your water, go to the bathroom, come back because you have to have this room scan, which is going to be another few minutes. But it's going to be very strict timing, I think.
I think it's going to be very strict timing. And from the feedback we got from folks that took the experiment, the room scans and stuff were a little stressful. Like they found that it was a little anxiety inducing and, not very communicative, and it's just another element. So you want to get used to everything you can control because it's going to feel a little weird.
Right. And the multiple choice, then you're going to get 90-minute sessions of 50 questions. So within those 50 questions, you can, again, do whatever you want. If you want to spend 10 minutes on the first question, cool, feel free. Wouldn't recommend it, but you can. And you can go back, it's going to be the same thing where you can mark answers and go back to them, but you're just going to go through 90 minutes and then you're going to have that 5-minute break.
Yeah. I would spend a lot of time on this, folks. I really think that you want to get comfortable with what this exam looks like. It's going to feel very different, especially if you've sat for it before.
Yeah. And then you have your 45-minute lunch, which again, you kind of need your stuff ready to go. You don't want to be standing around being well, what am I going to have for lunch?
No DoorDash.
Do I have a coffee? You're not ordering takeout. You need to have everything ready to go. If you need caffeine, you need to have that caffeine there, ready. You're not going to have time to run to your neighborhood coffee place probably. It just all needs to be planned out.
Yeah. This would be a great opportunity for cold brew, which I was just working on perfecting my own cold brew at home. Pro tip, it just needs to be filtered a lot, and then it's very delicious.
Yeah, well, I'm working on my homemade espresso, so
I know. I'm very excited to have one of your espressos when we see each other next time.
That alone, because I'm grinding it by hand, is going to take me about 15 minutes to make properly. So I might not do that on the exam day, or I might prioritize that as being pretty much what I'm going to do while my lunch is microwaving itself.
That's true. Or you're eating your sandwich while you're waiting for your coffee prep.
Or you know what? Maybe I could even grind it the night before and it just wouldn't be quite as fresh, but it would save me 10 minutes of
That's true.
Which is a little insane.
That's a little insane, yeah. Or you could make my cold brew and just have it fresh and waiting for you in the fridge.
See, I can't do that. It would make me too jittery.
Oh, well, once you perfect the dosage, it's just you got to perfect your caffeine dosage.
I'm 15 grams of espresso. I've got it dialed at this point. I've got a coffee scale. I've got the whole thing. But you want to, we're kind of joking, but kind of not.
Not really. Well, I was at a coffee shop over the holidays watching them make a cold brew, and they had it on a scale and they were pouring it in because it's a concentrate, to the exact amount to make sure you knew exactly what you're getting.
Yeah, if you start watching at high-end coffee places, which I do now, and I talk to them about what the ratio they're doing of how many, what's your ratio of coffee input to water output, and they tell me, and I'm like, oh cool, that's what I'm aiming for. It's not just that though, you also have to get that in the correct time, so your scale also has to have a timer on it. Yeah Look the next time you're at 4-barrel.
I know. Well, I will say I also had a conversation in parallel about cold brew making at a high-end coffee shop. So that's what we did over the holidays, everybody. We read FAQs and we talked about coffee.
We extracted information from experts. That's what we do.
That's right. That's what we do. That's how we live our lives. Okay, the last thing that I thought was interesting is you get a water bottle. Back in ages where we took the exam, you couldn't drink water. There was no water on your desk. You didn't get water. And so now you get water. And I think that's pretty exciting for most people.
Take the excitement where you can, Lee.
I don't know. Well, I think that's all I got from the FAQs. But everybody needs to make sure that they understand, what the exam is going to look like. Based on where you're taking the exam, you need to be watching for those emails and make sure they do not go in their junk mail.
Yeah, it seems like they did send out kind of confirmations of where people were taking it. So if you did not get that email, I think that's something to look into.
Yeah, it seems that the bar is now consistently emailing you. So if you're not getting regular emails from the bar, you need to follow up. And again, if you were affected by the fires, don't feel like you just have to take the test. Write to them and ask for whatever you need. Some people are considering delaying. Some people still want to take it.
Maybe in a different place.
Your location. Yeah, you may not be able to take it remotely anymore. Maybe you need to use a testing center. But just ask for what you need because I do hold in my heart that the bar will do the right thing.
Yeah, and aren't they also having a little Q&A that people should probably go to?
Oh, yes. I think that's on the 21st at noon. Yeah. So you should sign up to go to that. They don't record it, as we learned last time. So show up or don't get to hear about what's in it.
All right. Well, everybody, we are thinking of you and we are wishing everybody the best. And we're all going to get through this together.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, give us a like, and leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll see you here soon for our next bar update.